Kyra Barnes, the female assassin rappers fear. Jakira was the last person you'd expect to become an assassin, because growing up in the early 2000s, she was just your average girl who was funny, sweet, and loved by almost everyone. But things weren't always easy for Jakira, since she grew up on the south side of Chicago, one of the most dangerous hoods in America. And at just 1 year old, she lost her father to gun violence since he was killed in front of their home. And the violence in the neighborhood was steadily increasing. And just a few years later, Jakira witnessed her older brother get gunned down right in front of her eyes. So death quickly became a common theme in her life and seriously impacted her. But this didn't stop her from striving, since school was the one thing that made her happy. She attended the school's math and science events. She even was an honor roll student who dreamed of becoming a social worker. But in the middle of Jakira's 9th grade year, something would change. Her grades started getting worse, and she started having behavioral issues. And she was spending way more time on the block with her friends from the 63rd block in Chicago. And Jakira was quickly influenced by the wrong crowd. So she started fighting girls from rival neighborhoods like TYMB and their biggest rivals, basically right across the street known as O Block. And these fights started escalating to gunplay, and Jakira would start to lose more and more of her friends. And on January 2011, her life would completely change for the worse. On this day, her best friend, Tuka, was standing at the bus stop when a car pulled up on him and started letting off shots. The gunman shot Tuka several times, and he was later pronounced dead on the scene at just 15 years old. And once Jakira and the other gang members found out about Tuka's death, they decided to change the name of their gang to Tukaville to pay love and respect to their fallen soldier. And they would also say they were smoking on Tuka as a way to pay respect. But the opposition of Tukaville took this saying and turned it into a line of disrespect. Since when rising Chicago star Chief Keef got a hold of the saying, he would often say how he was smoking on Tuka.
Tuka. Tuka. You shot Tuka? Say Tuka, man.
So Jakira's best friend quickly became one of the most disrespected men in all of Chicago, with Chief Keef going viral. And this quickly made Jakira want to seek revenge, since she couldn't take any more after losing so many loved ones. So after Tuka's death, older member Boss Trill from the gang would take Jakira under his wing and teach her and the younger gang members about gunplay and how to handle their weapons. And on August 10th, 2011, Jakira and the gang members celebrated since it was Tuka's birthday. And FBG Duck, another Tukaville member, decided to film one of his music videos this day. And after filming, Jakira, along with all the Tukaville members, adrenaline was through the roof. And they felt like Tuka's birthday would be the perfect day for revenge. So Jakira, along with another member, went searching for ops. And they spotted O.D. Perry walking and sent multiple shots at him, causing him to lose his life. And Jakira allegedly fired the kill shot. After O.D. Perry's death, his gang renamed their block to honor him. But they also wanted to know who was behind his death. And many people thought someone else killed Perry. But the Chicago PD already had Jakira as one of the primary suspects. And at first, the O Block members didn't want to believe that a teenage girl had taken the life of one of their top members. And Jakira quickly started to get the reputation of a shooter around the city. But not long after this, Jakira would lose another loved one. Because Jakira and Taekwon were cousins, they would spend a lot of time together, even though his mom moved him out of Chicago to escape the violence. But one day, Taekwon came to Chicago so he could go to a party with Jakira, which wasn't a good idea, because at the end of the party, a fight broke out amongst a group of men, and gunshots rang out, with one of those bullets hitting 13-year-old Taekwon. And Jakira was there to witness another loved one lose their life in front of her eyes. So Jakira was truly heartbroken after Taekwon's death and changed her social media to Taekwon Assassin. She even created a subset of Tukaville named Taekwon World, which featured the younger members of the gang. And it didn't take long for Taekwon World to gain a reputation for dropping bodies, since Jakira would instruct the youngins to slide on gangs they were beefing with, while she focused on the bigger targets. At this point, a real war was going on, and Jakira and the rival gangs continued dissing the dead members on social media, only making things worse. So on September 25th, 2012, Jakira got into a fight with a rival member, King Von. As soon as they saw each other on the train, King Von punched Jakira in the face multiple times, and once he got home, he went to Twitter to let everybody know what he did to her. And Jakira would acknowledge what happened, saying he only bruised her face, but it was all good since her 40 cal could leave a hole in King Von's face. And a few days later, Jakira would tweet at King Von to let him know she beat up an O Block member on the train. And King Von would acknowledged these tweets saying how Jakira isn't a lame and he thinks he's in love with her. Vaughn continued making tweets to Jakira, telling her how much he liked her and wanted to date her. Vaughn would also tell Jakira that after the gang wars are over, they could be together. And not too long after tweeting with him, she made a tweet dissing Odie Perry. And Jakira started back tweeting at Vaughn, saying how O-Block wasn't dropping any bodies and her gang was putting in all the work, which eventually got Vaughn so agitated that he asked her if she wanted to have a shootout with him. And Jakira would respond by saying yeah, and telling him to bring his friend T-Roy, another O-Block member. And later, on October 9th, 2012, King Von and T-Roy were spotted outside O-Block. It's said that Jakira and another gang member ran down on Von and T-Roy and sprayed up the block, hitting King Von in the leg. And Von would make light of being shot in the leg since it didn't do much to him. But T-Roy was serious about the situation and tweeted, "I'm going to kill this." But Jakira wasn't done, since not long after this, she shot the female cousin of T-Roy, and she was later arrested and questioned about the incident. Even though T-Roy's cousin survived the attack and named Jakira as the shooter, no charges were ever brought against her. And not long after this, she tried murdering her ex-boyfriend, Mikado 600, since he was cool with O-Block, because one day, she saw him by O-Block and tried running down on him, but he ended up escaping. But not long after this, Tukaville would lose many more members, including Boss Trail, one of the most important members. This hit them hard, and they swore to get revenge for Trail's death. But despite the bloodshed between O-Block and Tukaville, King Von and Jakira stayed in contact, since he would tweet how they talked on the phone and how she sounded pretty. But Jakira believed she wasn't pretty enough for Von to want, since she felt he was doing that to set her up. But Jakira and Von's deadly love/hate relationship would be put on hold when Von was arrested for unlawful use of a weapon. And while Von was locked up, he had his sister tweet at Jakira, since he said he missed her. But she would just laugh it off, since she was too busy becoming one of the deadliest assassins in Chicago, since she started doing murder for hire. Because there was a message thread released from Jakira's DMs between her and an unknown man planning to take out a well-known Chicago rapper. Since Jakira replied, telling the man for $10,000 she would get rid of G Herbo, but she still wanted revenge for all of her friends that had recently fallen. So on September 2nd, 2013, that opportunity for revenge came, since a guy named J Money got set up while trying to meet a girl. And once J Money realized he was being set up, he tried to run, but was shot multiple times. And after this, Jakira immediately made tweets bragging about shooting people in the head. So Tukaville celebrated the death of J Money. But months later, King Von was released from jail, and the first thing he did was tweet at Jakira, asking her if she misses him. Jakira would respond with gun emojis, and eventually asked Von how it feels to lose his homie while behind bars. And Von didn't respond to this comment. He instead made a tweet saying, "R.I.P. J Money." But death would once again pay Jakira a visit, since she would lose Lil B. But it wasn't the ops who got to Lil B, it was the police.
A massive police presence between Eberhard and Rhodes on 63rd. Patrol cars, blue lights flashing after a police-involved shooting.
He got shot 7 times on Rhodes, right there by the police.
Friends say 19-year-old Rasan Shah had just left them to get something to eat.
And the death of Lil B destroyed Jakira, and she completely broke down at the funeral. And since she was in pain, she wanted her ops to be in pain, especially Chief Keef, due to all the dissing he was doing towards Tuka. But he had already moved out of Chicago after making it in the rap game, but he still had family in Chicago. So in the early morning hours of April 10th, 2014, Chief Keef's cousin, Blood Money, was sitting in front of his family's home when he was approached by a gunman and shot multiple times. And Jakira would let it be known that she was responsible for the death of Blood Money. But not even the death of her enemies could heal her, since she would go on social media to talk about her pain and all the people she had lost. She even made a tweet saying how she would have been a better person if her dad was around. And according to Jakira's mom, when she looked in her eyes, she could already tell her soul was gone. And her mother's intuition would be proven correct. Unfortunately, on April 11th, 2014, Jakira made a fatal mistake by tweeting out her location for everyone to see, including her ops. She was walking down the block with 2 friends who were headed over to Wooski's house to celebrate Boss Trail's birthday, when a gunman hopped out of a vehicle, waved bystanders to get out of the way, and began opening fire at Jakira and her friends. Her 2 friends were hit, and Jakira was hit 9 times. After being shot, she stumbled to a nearby home, where she lay on some steps, taking her last breath.